The new Speaker of the House is here. We've got a lot to talk about. Welcome into my state of mind. I am Dan Yorke. It's a brand new week, and I'll tell you, last week was the week that was, wasn't it? As our entire state government went upside down. Tonight, the new boss, the Speaker of the House, Nick Mattiello, the representative from Cranston, is here. And what we're going to do tonight is a little bit different. Rather than having a rundown on all sorts of different things, we're going to run down all the things that we want to talk to the Speaker about, and he will join us in our first segment. So, quick, let me go to the list and tell you what we have for the new Speaker. I am interested in his support for Gordon Fox and what that actually means. He had an interesting opening speech where 5 of the 12 minutes that he spent on the rostrum were nice, but in my mind, out of place. Next item. This is at the core of what we got to talk about. He wants to get jobs. I'm all for him, but there's a way to get there. And then there's some logistics issues we got to talk about, like the pension case, which is coming his way, the process of legislation and all that kind of thing, the politics of legislation and all of that. So by the time we're done, the Speaker will be, let's put it this way, he will have well briefed you one way or the other. It all started with this. A couple of Fridays ago, kind of shocked everybody. We got a little bit of this, little additional action over at the Speaker's house. And on Saturday, it ended with this. And I think it was kind of like the shot heard around the world, at least in southern New England, know about that. And so what did we end up with? The new Speaker. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Dan.
That was crazy.
It was an interesting weekend, to say the least, from a lot of different perspectives.
Let's get into some of this. I'm not going to waste a lot of time with, what happened that weekend, da-da-da-da-da. I'm more interested in how the Speaker is going to lead. And, our first item, as I told you, is this idea of support for Gordon Fox, the Speaker who exits stage right under the pressure of this raid on both his home and the Speaker's office. Here's what the Speaker had to say on opening day of his leadership.
I am taking over the leadership with a very heavy heart. I was proud to have served as Speaker Gordon Fox's majority leader for more than 4 years, and we enacted some very important legislation. I'd like to thank Speaker Fox, who put the best interest of this House first and foremost by stepping aside after the events of last Friday. We support him, and we know he will always support the entire House. He loves and respects this House.
Really?
I believe so, Dan. I may have a different perspective than most.
Please share it, because boy, do we need it.
Well, Gordon Fox gave 20 years of his life to the House of Representatives. I truly believe he loves and respects the House of Representatives. So I'm gracious to the man who served the people, and I believe he served the people with the best of interest. Clearly, there were bumps in the road. I don't condone the bumps in the road. I don't condone whatever events led to the raid. But to the service, I'm not going to totally disregard his service. Gordon Fox may or may not have made mistakes. That's up to him. He's going to have to deal with whatever he's facing. I wish him well in that. But I also think it's appropriate that justice be done. So I'm not trying to whitewash a bad situation.
Why didn't you say that there? Why didn't you talk about that? When you're talking to the House, you guys tend to think that it's your own little party. There's an entire electorate of state citizens that are traumatized by the idea that the most powerful position in the state just went out the door because he's been raided at his home and his office. And you're playing the gosh, we miss you, we love you game. Do you understand how that doesn't resonate with the state residents?
Absolutely, I understand that. As I said, I was being gracious to a human being for his past service who has problems to face. I am gracious to anybody who's got difficulties to face. It's my nature. Doesn't mean I condone the behavior, and it doesn't mean I don't plan on starting fresh and moving forward with my own leadership style.
But if this speech was important to set a tone, why didn't you say that there? There was nothing in your presentation to say, hey, listen, by the way, new sheriff in town in a very peculiar environment, and you did make mention of the nature of the rush of it all. But part of the problem I have always had with the General Assembly, and it's the body. It's that there's a little bit of a it's our party type of thing, and it's our environment, and it's our collegiality, and it's our relationships, and it's we inside the House. There's an entire state out there that's looking for a clean slate. They're sick of this, Nick. They hate this, and they don't want to hear him supported. They don't want to hear him. I don't say you got to kick the guy on the way out the door, but you could set a tone that says, you know what? Thanks for the memories,
Dan,
but it's a new day.
Dan, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that some folks would want that, but I think most of the state is gracious. Now, here's how I'm going to set my tone. Words come easy for people. I'm going to set my tone with my actions. I said I'm going to be a jobs economy speaker, and that's what they're going to get. You're going to get the highest integrity possible out of me. I'm going to work as hard as I can to move the state in the right direction. I'm going to work for the people each and every day, and that's the tone I'm going to set.
I don't buy the "you're not articulate" nonsense. So get off that. You're a well-schooled lawyer. You're a smart guy.
I would hope so.
You may be a deliberate speaker, but you're not a D's and Dumbser. So don't try to put it on the articulate broadcaster host that the flower. Listen, I got a question for you. Are you angry? Are you angry about what happened to the state of Rhode Island last week?
I'm sad at what happened to the state of Rhode Island last week.
There's no anger?
I am sad at what happened to the state of Rhode Island. And it is my job to move the state of Rhode Island forward. Looking back is not going to help the state. I am going to move it forward with the integrity that is my personality. I believe that most people have a level of confidence in me, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to fulfill their confidence.
I think you ought to take a walk. You've been too busy in meetings. Take a walk down Park Avenue and ask anybody if they're angry about what happened. I think you're going to have a different response.
And let me say this, Dan. I think if folks want to be angry at what happened, they have the right to be angry.
They don't want to be angry, Nick. They are angry. Their speaker just went out in a raid.
And they have a right to be angry. I'm not pleased by that, Dan. That's yesterday's news at this point. I'm saddened that it happened.
We wish it was yesterday's news. We haven't even heard why he went out. It's not going to be yesterday's news. And you're going to have to take a tone that sets the right kind of tone of discontent with what's happened here, because even you, I'm sure, don't know what happened, correct? You have no idea why he's charged.
I have no idea. So I would suspect it has nothing to do with governmental business.
Let's move on here, because we'll weave in and out of these concepts. But I just wanted to make mention of this. Now, this is hard for me because I like you and have known you for a while. We're not close, but we've had a good working relationship, and I don't want you to get the wrong impression. But can we roll this, Laura, real quick, this video, also from the speech?
I have just a small token of appreciation, but sorry for what...
So we'll bring it back. We could play it longer. Listen, your love for your family was clear. Mm-hmm. I think people have common ground with that. But what I was hoping for, and I think a lot of people were hoping for, is, hey, thanks for electing me. Triage. We got work to do. Mm-hmm. Let's go. Not a 5-minute lifetime achievement ceremony for your family and everybody you know.
And I heard you were disappointed with that. We've done the triage. We're moving forward at lightning speed. However, that's who I am. It's important for the state to know who their speaker is, what matters to me, and that's important to my wife. My wife has been standing beside me, behind me, pushing me, supporting me. My children have. I'm not home as much as my family would like me to be home. So for me to do that little gesture for them was important to me, and it was important to my family. I think it's important to the state. It's important that the state know who their speaker is.
Call a press conference. Call a press conference.
But that's what you would have done. That's what I wanted to do.
I understand what you wanted to do, but my overall message here, Mr. Speaker, is that chamber has been too me oriented. It needs to get out of itself. It needs to be service first, us less. And you know what? Your wife, who's sacrificed the time in your marriage, and your kids who've done so too, would understand that this is about being General Patton, not about having a backyard celebration over you getting some new award.
That is a celebratory day. However, we went into triage mode. We've been working at triage speed.
Behind the scenes.
That is, the House of Representatives is an institution that I love. That is the people's house. The representatives are the state's most close person to their community. It's the constituents' best communication with a state official. They should know who their house is comprised of.
Well, listen, here's the great thing about conversations like this. Folks will judge my questions and they'll judge your answers. I'm trying to tell you, from my perspective, my listeners and a lot of my viewers' perspectives and people I've met, they're sick of the self-celebration that goes on. Celebrate leadership. They don't need to see another exercise in patting oneself on the back, even if it comes in the beautiful form of flowers for one's wife.
You can perform people's business and show the people that we're human beings like everyone else. There's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
The Speaker wants jobs, so do we. How do we get there? Next, stay with us.
It has an even greater impact than tax increases in this one study, an increase in corruption in a state on the job growth. So we think, you know, the new speaker wants to talk about jobs in the economy. This has something to do with jobs in the economy.
John Marion from Common Cause the other day talking about ethics and cleansing the House and giving it, all due respect, an enema in terms of its behavior and getting to the jobs thing via an ethics cleanse. You see it very differently. Every answer, Mr. Speaker, that you've given on your priorities is about jobs first,
Yep.
jobs first. And you think that you're going to be able to create some legislative environment for economic growth via jobs. I would submit to you that the first thing you need to do is clean up the House's act and send a message not only abroad to the state but across the country that things like what happened to Gordon Fox are no more possible based on things like we're going to improve the Ethics Commission's power over the House. We are going to talk about master lever to equitize the two-party system if we can at all. Yes? No?
Well, first, my concentration is going to be on jobs in the economy. I've said that. You have a premise that we have to have a fundamental change in the House itself.
Amen.
We need
In government
We need a
itself.
change in the direction of the House. There is no wrongdoing within the House. We have different priorities. I think our priorities need to change. We have a speech and debate clause. That has to be thought out and it has to be considered.
Fine, then work it out. Work it out. But to suggest that this is a secondary consideration, Justice Flanders was at an event at Bryan University. This is the RI Future piece, Laura, if you can pull this. He said this weekend, and people, let's watch how they laughed.
I think that that's an important idea, that we still have a lot of time left in the current session. We've got a new speaker. Consider the possibility that he might champion ethics amendments.
There were 100 mover shakers in that room at Bryan's Hassenfeld's. They were laughing over the notion that you would even tackle an ethics conversation.
I don't know. First, I don't know who was in that group. I've never said I wouldn't tackle it, but if I do look at it, it will be done thoughtfully. I've got another 70, 80, whatever number of days left. We're not going to be able to tackle all the big issues. We're going to concentrate on jobs and the economy. That comes first and foremost. I've got a tax structure that I have to look at. I've got a regulatory problem that I have to look at. I've got a budget that I've got to wrap my arms around, and we've got to do that by June. So,
Mr. Speaker,
you
the
have
same way that you
hold things
suggested to me,
in perspective.
and the same way that you suggested to me, the two things can be done at once on our past conversation. If you don't tackle ethics and governmental behavior, you can write every tax rewrite, bureaucratic downsize, and incentive program via legislation you want. The rest of the world still thinks we're corrupt.
Well,
and 38 Studios sits as a clear example of that. I'll ask you again because you've already given me the answer. You didn't know that a $125 million loan guarantee program had in part a $75 million dedication to Kurt Schilling's deal before it happened, correct?
Absolutely
Why
not.
aren't you angry that that happened? Why aren't you angry that Speaker Fox led you down that path? And why aren't you calling for hearings about that very thing? I mean, your opponent, Mike Marcello, the only smart thing he said in competing with you over the weekend last weekend for the speakership was that he has no credibility because he never called for subpoena power. Will you call for subpoena power and have the legislature cleanse itself rather than relying on the feds, the IRS, and the state police?
First, let me say I knew nothing about it. Am I disappointed that I didn't know about it? I should have.
And I believe you didn't know
should
anything
have.
about it. So
I should have.
why aren't you ripping over the idea that this happened?
There came a time that I was very happy I knew nothing about it. But I believe that in the near future, the depositions are probably going to be unsealed. and because there's an open records request for them. Let's see what the depositions disclose, and then we'll take it from there. Why are
you relying on the authorities when the legislature ends up learning that 98% of the body was duped into a vote? Then Congress wouldn't let it happen. Whatever law enforcement activity would have occurred, Congress would hear thyself and cleanse thyself a process to make sure it never happens again. And you guys are almost relieved that the raid happened.
It's never gonna happen again, because that's not my leadership style. My leadership style is to bring in my leadership team and work with every representative in the room. I've been working bipartisan. I've set a different tone.
You could be gone next year. They could throw you out next year.
When I ultimately get, when I'm no longer the speaker, ultimately, I hope it's under my own design, then the body should elect another speaker with the same level of integrity.
What about the Joe Almeidas of the world? So Joe Almeida, you name a deputy minority whip or whatever the heck he's named. Nice guy. We all love Joe, right? Joe doesn't respond to the Board of Elections for 18 months as they're trying to inquire as to whether he's cashing his little fundraising dough. The complaint goes from the Board of Elections to the Attorney General's office. If I'm the speaker and I find that, I say, you know what, Joe, I don't even want to know the details. You're off my leadership team. I need to create a tone.
Well, Joe went down there. He's had some treasurers that have failed him. I certainly don't condone his behavior, but Joe's gone down there, and I believe within the next week it'll be all straightened out to everybody's satisfaction.
He didn't respond to the Board of Elections for 18 months. He didn't return a phone call, a memo, or an email, and he remains on your leadership team?
He's still a valuable person on my leadership team. He brings skill to the position.
Mr. Speaker,
I'm
respectfully,
interested
do you
in
understand what people think when they see that? They see nice guy, says some of the right things, but there's meet the new boss same as the old boss. If you tolerate that kind of indifference to regulation and oversight, where's the newness?
No, I'm requiring that he straighten it out to the satisfaction of everybody involved, and that's the Board of Elections. And if he can do that, he adds value to my team. I'm interested in running the House of Representatives. I understand that other persons would have different perspectives. I'm interested in running the House. I'm going to put together the best team to do that so I can do the people's business as efficiently as we can.
Well, I can't wait to see this show. I don't watch this show, but I think we're having two different conversations. When we come back, elections, the political process, and a couple of priorities when we come back. Stay with us. So there is the state representative from North Kingstown, the Republican, as she goes actually into Nick Mattiello's caucus at the Marriott. She becomes the vice chair of judiciary. You know what bothers me about that whole thing? I thought the Republicans could have done a better job in the midst of your vote accumulation over the weekend for the House speakership of putting you up to some public commitments on some issues. They didn't, and it seems to me that Doreen Costa and perhaps others are going to put position over policy. What came and who promised who what to put a Republican on the vice chairman of the Judiciary Committee?
Dan, no promises were made. Doreen...
That's the problem. I mean, they needed promises from you on issues.
They wouldn't have gone to promise. I didn't make promises on any issues, and I wasn't going to make them. Their decision was to vote for a pro-business, pro-Second Amendment candidate such as myself, or a much more progressive caucus or team. And I don't think they were comfortable doing that.
Well, listen, you know, on ideology and the scoreboard, you and I probably would align more together than the progressive element would. So I get that.
So I wouldn't have to give you any promises then.
No, but no. See, that's you're being cute now. I'm glad you're having fun. Here's the thing. You got away with getting elected to the House speakership without having to commit to a doggone single issue.
That's
Congratulations,
right.
Maestro.
I wanted to get there clean.
Yeah.
I wanted to get there clean.
It's not, wait.
I didn't make promises.
Being committed to things like an ethics commission upgrade, a master lever, and things that would be important to good government wouldn't get you there clean?
I got there with people supporting me without having to give out favors to get there.
All right, what's going to happen with the bridge? This. You're going to tell me there's no vote trading going on this? Is that bridge going to end up tolled, or are you going to find a macroeconomic solution to be able to not bury Aquidneck Island?
What I've said months ago, long before this incident occurred, I started becoming concerned with putting too much burden and cost on that side of the state. So we're going to look at alternative solutions
Clock's
to that.
ticking. The
absolutely.
Turnpike and Bridge Authority is saying come May 15th, they're going to jack that thing up to 50 cents and $3.75 without a transponder come heck or high water.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely. We're working on a plan right now.
meaning?
We're working on a plan.
Tell me what your projection is. Will that thing end up being a 10-cent placeholder continuation? Will you eliminate the toll? What's your intent? What's your goal?
My goal, I would love to eliminate the toll so that we don't have one toll on one side of the state. The Pell Bridge is a little different. That's a tourism bridge. It's different than other bridges. So I don't want to put too much cost in any one side of the state.
We're out of time. You'll come back.
Absolutely. This has
Look,
been my pleasure.
By the way, what is this radio debate nonsense? You can only meet me here? Great for my viewership here, but you can't meet me on the radio? Are you going to feed into that Democratic, ridiculous, fake pablum over a boycott of WPRO?
You guys have to work that out. I want to be able to come on your show.
No, we're there every day, Nick.
You guys have to work that out.
We're there every day.
Some of the
show some leadership.
Some of the comments I wasn't comfortable with, so I did sign the pledge for the boycott.
Not mine.
I'm hoping it
Not
works
mine,
out. Not
none
yours,
others.
not anyone else's.
Doesn't matter.
We're going to try to work that out. I hope everyone can work together in working that out.
Congratulations on becoming the new speaker.
Thank you, Dan.
All right. Your state of mind when we come back, Steve. Your state of mind anytime. If you want to react to what you just saw with the Speaker of the House, 228-1886 is the number. Leave a voicemail. I'm thinking there probably will be a few reactions to that. Email me at stateofmind@myritv.com. This Speaker has got a lot of work to do, and I think he's got some conceptual problems. But at least he'll come here for the diagnosis. And for that, we shall give him credit. We'll see you tomorrow on the radio at noon on WPRO and here at 7:30 tomorrow night.